Have you ever watched an interview that seemed completely ordinary at first, only to realize later that something much deeper might have been happening beneath every smile and every glance? Imagine if the biggest story was never spoken aloud. Imagine if every quiet look, every thoughtful pause, and every unexpected smile carried a hidden meaning that only the most observant fans could notice. Stay with this story until the very last moment, because every chapter uncovers another surprising detail, and the final revelation changes everything you thought you understood. If you enjoy heartwarming celebrity stories filled with unforgettable moments and emotional twists, make sure you like this story, share it with fellow fans, and let everyone know which moment surprised you the most. The studio lights slowly came to life as the production team prepared for one of the most anticipated celebrity interviews of the year. Everything appeared perfectly ordinary. The cameras were tested. The microphones were adjusted. The hosts reviewed their questions one final time. Stylists carefully checked every detail before the live recording began. Nothing seemed unusual. At least that was what everyone believed. Backstage, Zhang Linghe quietly adjusted the sleeve of his jacket while reviewing the interview schedule. Across the room, Tian Xiwei laughed softly with members of the makeup team as they shared stories from previous filming experiences. Neither of them seemed nervous. Both looked completely relaxed. Yet the atmosphere felt strangely different. Several crew members exchanged curious smiles as if they had noticed something impossible to explain. When the director finally announced that recording would begin in 60 seconds, everyone hurried into position. The countdown echoed throughout the studio.
5, 4,
3,
2, 1.
The cameras began rolling. The hosts welcomed viewers with bright smiles before introducing the two stars sitting comfortably beside each other. The audience applauded enthusiastically. The interview started exactly as expected. Questions about upcoming projects, favorite filming memories, funny moments on set. Everything seemed completely normal. But then something unexpected happened. While the first host was speaking, Zhang Linghe briefly turned toward Tian Xiwei. Only for a second. His expression barely changed. Yet Tian Xiwei smiled before he even finished looking at her. The audience did not notice. The hosts continued speaking. But one camera operator quietly raised an eyebrow. Later, he would admit that it felt like they had understood an entire conversation without saying a single word. As the interview continued, another small moment caught everyone's attention behind the cameras. A glass of water had been placed in front of Tian Xiwei before recording began. During one answer, she became so focused on speaking that she forgot about it completely. Without interrupting the conversation, Zhang Linghe gently moved the glass a little closer to her. He never looked directly at it. He never pointed toward it. He simply adjusted its position before returning his attention to the host. Several staff members smiled. It was such a tiny gesture, yet somehow it felt incredibly thoughtful. A few minutes later, the host surprised everyone with an unexpected question. If you could describe your co-star using only one word, what would it be? The audience leaned forward with excitement. Tian Xiwei answered first. Reliable. Her answer came almost instantly. The room filled with warm applause. Then everyone turned toward Zhang Linghe. He remained silent for a few seconds. Not because he could not think of an answer, because he wanted to choose the right one. Finally, he smiled. Inspiring. The audience applauded once again. Neither answer sounded dramatic. Neither answer sounded rehearsed. Yet somehow those simple words stayed in everyone's minds long after the interview continued. As more questions followed, fans watching closely noticed another curious detail. Whenever Tian Xiwei answered a difficult question, Zhang Linghe quietly listened without interrupting. He nodded gently. Sometimes he smiled. Sometimes he simply waited patiently until she finished speaking. His attention never wandered. His focus remained entirely on the conversation. The hosts noticed it too. One of them jokingly asked if he was secretly acting as her biggest supporter. The entire studio laughed. Zhang Linghe smiled without saying much. Sometimes listening carefully is more important than speaking. The simple sentence received another round of applause. As the interview reached its halfway point, the production team introduced a light-hearted game. Each actor would randomly select questions from a glass bowl. The questions ranged from funny childhood memories to unexpected habits. Everything went smoothly until Tian Xiwei selected one particular question. What makes you smile even after an exhausting day? She looked at the card thoughtfully. For several seconds, she remained quiet. Then she answered, "Seeing people around me happy." The audience smiled warmly. Moments later, Zhang Linghe selected his own question. What is the first thing you notice when someone enters a room? He glanced toward Tian Xiwei almost instinctively before answering. Their energy. The audience erupted with laughter after noticing his perfectly timed glance. Even the hosts could not stop smiling. Neither actor commented on it. The interview moved forward. During a short break between recording segments, something happened that viewers would never see on television. One studio light suddenly became much brighter than expected. Several people instinctively looked away. Tian Xiwei blinked several times because of the brightness. Before any crew member reacted, Zhang Linghe quietly shifted his chair slightly, blocking part of the intense light from reaching her face. He never mentioned it. He simply continued listening to the producer. A lighting technician noticed the gesture immediately. Afterward, he quietly told another crew member. Some people notice only the cameras. Others notice the people beside them. The second half of the interview became even more relaxed. Stories from filming filled the studio with laughter. They remembered forgotten lines. Unexpected weather. Props that refused to cooperate. Scenes that required countless retakes because everyone kept laughing. The audience laughed along with every memory. Then came one final question. If you could relive one moment from filming, what would you choose? Neither answered immediately. Both looked toward each other almost at the same time. Then they laughed. The synchronized reaction surprised everyone. Finally, Tian Xiwei answered. The first day. Everything felt new. Everything felt possible. Zhang Linghe nodded gently. I would choose the final day. Because that was when everyone realized how much the journey meant. Silence filled the studio. Not uncomfortable silence. The kind that appears when everyone feels the meaning behind simple words. As the interview ended, the audience stood to applaud. The hosts thanked everyone for watching. The cameras slowly stopped recording. But something remarkable happened after filming officially finished. Instead of leaving immediately, Zhang Linghe quietly thanked every camera operator. He thanked the sound engineers. He thanked the stage assistants. He thanked the makeup artists. He thanked the security team standing near the entrance. Tian Xiwei joined him. Together they walked around the studio greeting everyone individually. No cameras recorded those moments. No headlines would ever mention them. Yet for the crew, those few minutes became the most memorable part of the entire day. As everyone prepared to leave, one young production assistant approached the director. She smiled before asking, "Do you think fans will notice all those little moments?" The director looked toward the now empty interview stage. Then he smiled. Maybe, maybe not. But kindness does not become valuable because people notice it. Kindness becomes valuable because it is genuine. Outside the studio, evening sunlight painted the city in warm golden colors. Fans waiting beyond the entrance cheered excitedly as the two actors appeared. They waved. They smiled. They thanked everyone who had waited for hours. Before entering separate vehicles, Zhang Linghe noticed an elderly fan standing quietly near the back of the crowd. Without hesitation, he walked over to greet her personally. Tian Xiwei followed immediately. The elderly woman smiled with tears in her eyes as they thanked her for years of support. Nearby fans applauded the touching moment. Even security staff smiled. As the vehicles slowly disappeared into the evening traffic, social media exploded with discussions. Fans replayed the interview countless times. Some noticed the thoughtful gestures. Others focused on the shared smiles. Many debated whether the silent moments carried hidden meanings. Perhaps they did. Perhaps they did not. But everyone agreed on one thing. Sometimes the most unforgettable conversations are the ones that happen without a single spoken word. And perhaps that was the true story behind the interview. Not dramatic headlines. Not sensational moments. But the quiet respect, genuine friendship, and thoughtful gestures that reminded everyone watching that the smallest acts of kindness often leave the biggest impression. Long after the studio lights were switched off and the audience had gone home, those silent moments continued to live on in the hearts of everyone who had witnessed them, proving that sometimes the strongest message is not delivered through words at all, but through the simple way people choose to care for one another.